G'day guys and welcome to this. This is the Mitsubishi Triton, a car that I think actually just cops a lot of flack from journalists pretty unnecessarily. You know, this thing is actually the third best-selling ute here in Australia, and yet it often wins worst ute. But it's just so far from that, it's not funny. I'm going to show you why I think that this is one of the most underrated utes that you could buy. Of course, before we get into the review, I need to thank channel sponsor, Driva. We've partnered with Driva to give you the absolute best financing deals for any new or used car. And that means that you can pick up one of these bad boys with the best financing deal possible. All you need to do is click the link in the description below or the pinned comment. There you can compare the absolute best financing deals for you, get pre-approved in under 2 minutes with no impact to your credit score. And if you go through and settle that loan using my link, $150 fuel card. That's pretty awesome. Now, as always, I want to start with how this thing looks. So, this Triton model came out in 2015. It was facelifted in 2019, and I still think that this is one of the best looking utes you can buy. I really like these headlights here. They are pretty bright as well. Not the brightest out there for sure, but still pretty good. This is the GSR, which means it's top of the range and usually comes fully blacked out. You can actually see parts of that here, except obviously this one here has been optioned with the factory bull bar. You do have the little Mitsubishi logo there, and as I step in front of the camera, I'll get out of the way. You can just see it's a really good looking ute, and I really like it in this sun flare orange or whatever the hell they call it. It looks so nice. At over 60 grand for this GSR trim, which is, to be fair, top of the range, it does go up head to head with cars like the GWM Cannon X, which is a real value player at about $45,000. And at the end of the review, I highly recommend you go and watch that one. Okay, so coming to the side, what is there to like? I really like these 18-inch wheels. As you can see, they're all blacked out as well as part of the GSR package. They do run on highway terrain tires standard, so that means that this thing really shouldn't be doing any off-roading straight from the factory, although if you switch those out, this thing is very capable straight from the factory. And then you're going to notice the bed. First of all, you're going to notice that there's quite a large overhang over the rear, and that's because it was actually extended out in 2015 when it came out. So yes, you've got more length, but if you put all the weight in the back, you're going to know about it. You see, this actually has the underpinnings of the second gen Triton that came out in 2006. I don't actually think that's a bad thing though, because that was a great car and it still remains really good. In fact, when you see it on the road, it keeps up. Here's another issue with the Triton, or it may be an issue for you, and that's that this thing has a 3.1 ton towing rating. That is less than the 3.5 ton that you'll find on pretty much every other ute out there. Personally, I don't know if I would even go for this GSR, because as part of that, you're paying about $6,700 to get this tonneau cover, which, I mean, ugh, I hate these things. They do my head in. All they do is keep things in here waterproof, but you might as well just get yourself a canopy that you can lock anyway, because it's not like you can lock that. As part of that package though, you do get a bed liner there. You've also got some tie down points, but in my opinion, it's not that necessary, but you let me know in the comment section what you think. The other thing that this doesn't do too well is its size. So it's actually a narrower ute than other utes. In fact, its depth, height, and width are all just a little bit less than its main competitors. But I have been living with this thing for a week. I've packed a lot of stuff in there and I've had zero issues. So to each their own, I think it's totally fine. But if we move back to the looks, you can see these taillights here. I actually quite like them. You've also got a camera here. This actually has a 360 camera. I will admit though, it's a bit poo. Look, overall, I actually really like the looks of the Triton. And no, it doesn't have the best bed out there, but I think for 99% of people, you're gonna really like that anyway. Let's check out the inside. Okay, let's talk about the interior, because that seems to be where a lot of the, I don't want to say hate, but it almost seems like hate stems from for these cars. The Mitsubishi Triton is simple on the interior. Yes, scratchy materials everywhere, and yes, other utes do it better, and there is a functional purpose for soft materials. This kind of material reflects road noise, but when you're driving around in here, it's actually quite quiet. So they've obviously put enough measures in for noise vehicle paneling to be able to reduce the kind of reverberation and sound in here. Technology is average at best. You have one of the smallest infotainment screens you can find on any new car. It's 7 inches, but you know what? It actually works pretty well. It has navigation, digital radio. You've even got an HDMI port for God knows why. But if you want to plug in something, I guess you can watch a movie. Interesting, but still, whatever. And the infotainment display has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Yes, both of which are wired, but I don't care. There's no wireless charger, so it helps keep my phone charged. I will say I'm probably most disappointed with this instrument cluster, and it's starting to hail. That's not great. Let's do this quickly. You see it's analog, that's okay, but in the center you get a small screen, but you can't see much information on it. You can't even see your digital speed readout. I mean, that's kind of a given in 2022, almost 2023 actually, so I don't know, not a fan of that. This is also optioned with the $1,000 tan interior, and I actually kind of like it. A lot of other journos seem to hate it. They call it the orange interior. I mean, it's just more like a brown, like a lighter brown. The seats though, they are pretty nice. They're not the most supportive. They don't have lumbar support, for example, but I mean, I've driven 1,000 kilometers in this car so far and I haven't had a sore back. So, you know, as a heavier guy, I'm gonna give that a pass. They are heated though, so that's nice, even though these switches feel kind of bleh. More leather here though, you got some on the doors too, and the steering wheel is a leather unit. This does feel a bit old, but it works fine. I kind of like the orange stitching around it. And you've got some of the nicest paddle shifters ever. Listen to this. They're metal. I don't know how they do it so well, but these are like the best out there. It's crazy. A bit unnecessary, to be fair. Down here, you've also got your four-wheel drive selector. That's pretty awesome. Yes, of course, this is a four-wheel drive. And it does have a low-range transfer case as well, which you can control through there too. Storage, again, not the best. You have a pretty massive glove box here, a couple of cup holders, a storage area up there, but otherwise that's about it. It's definitely not class leading there, but again, I don't really care. And of course you have this center armrest, which is really well padded, and that does have a little bit of storage within there, but yeah, it's just not the best. Sure, this isn't the nicest interior, but it feels purposeful. And as I've said, I've done about 1,000 kilometers in this thing and I'm enjoying my time in it. It's comfy. Let's talk about the back seats. Okay, so now let's talk about the back seats, which is actually a pretty good story. So, of course, like most Utes, you can pull this down and there you will find a bit of storage. Not the most, but you can hide some valuables there. I can't quite seem to lift this up. In a lot of other Utes, they have storage underneath there. Let me know in the comment section if I've just missed that and if I'm dumb or if you just can't. But if we hold on to this and step in, close the door because it's bloody freezing today. When you're back here, it is very comfortable. Now, I'm 5'11". I have plenty of legroom, heaps of headroom, and toe room is okay, though not the best. You have a little storage area here, a couple of USB-A ports too, that's nice. You've got some pretty meaty map pockets there too. Again, the leather back here is actually really nice. And I like the brown look. Suits this car, I think. If you pull down the armrest, then you've got a couple of cup holders in there. But my favorite thing, because I love air conditioning, is you've got a couple of vents up here on both sides, and you can control it using this controller up here. That's all very good. I like it. It is actually quite spacious for a dual cab Ute. But the interior isn't really why people buy this Ute. Because of the engine. Let's talk about that. It's no secret that one of the big reasons that you would buy a Mitsubishi over pretty much any other Ute is its reliability. So let's take a look at it. Under the bonnet is the 2.4 litre turbocharged diesel engine. It puts out 133 kilowatt of power, 430 newton meters of torque. All very healthy numbers. None of it's class leading, but it's right smack bang in the middle. But here's what the Mitsubishi has over the Great Wall Cannon X, and that is proven reliability. Now, that car might be reliable. We don't know because it's new. This engine, however, has been in use since 2010, but it has proven its reliability. There are no major issues with this engine at all. That's a great thing. And better yet, you can get spare parts for this. A lot of Utes right now are struggling to get spare parts, whereas these are still in stock. And of course, Mitsubishi knows that one of the main selling points of this car are its reliability, and that's why this thing gets a 10-year warranty, 200,000 kilometers max though, and you have to service it at Mitsubishi dealerships, but who cares? 10 years is pretty awesome. But how about let's put the performance to the test? Okay, so let's launch the new Mitsubishi Triton. Now we're going to put this car into four-wheel drive because this has a permanent four-wheel drive system. Don't worry, we'll come back to that in just a moment. And that will give us the best grip for the best launch. Okay, let's brake boost launch it. So foot on the brake, foot on the accelerator, build up some boost. Let's go. Oh, it's not the fastest thing in the world. 0 to 100 in 10.6 seconds. Yeah, look, that's not that quick, but that's fine. Who's racing their Mitsubishi Triton? Okay, let's start with driving, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves of all dual cabs. You put your foot down, and it just like fishtails everywhere because they're rear wheel drive. But this is where the Triton has probably my favorite feature of any dual cab ute, and that is the Super Select 2. That's its name for its permanent four-wheel drive that you can use on paved roads. You go down here, you put the car into 4H. You can see there now, it says 4H, meaning 4 high, and we are in permanent four-wheel drive. How good is that? Now, it does warn you about fuel use because obviously if you're having to drive the front wheels as well as the rear wheels, you're gonna be using a bit more fuel, but I don't care. If it's a nice day like today, I could put it back into two-wheel drive, or for that added grip of the four-wheel drive system, I could just use four-wheel drive. Here's one of the areas that Mitsubishi Tritons seem to fall over, at least that's what other people think, and that is with its handling, and not just handling, ride quality. From where I'm sitting, it's very comfortable. In fact, I think this is one of the most comfortable dual cab utes out there, especially considering we have no weight in the back. Oh, you know what this straight does to me. Foot down. Look, not the most powerful ute out there, but it still has plenty of get up and go. And the torquiness from the diesel as well is very good. In fact, when you compare it to its competitors, it's about middle of the range. So can't really complain there. Let's give it some sauce around these corners and see how it performs. So you can kind of feel that this is a lighter ute. In fact, this is one of the lightest utes in the segment, which is a good thing. And even though we don't have any weight in the rear, I'm surprised by how well this is handling. No, it's not a sports car. That's our lane departure warning there. But it does the job really well. Now, a lot of other reviewers also seem to complain about the engine noise. Yeah, it does sound a little bit agricultural, but again, it's a ute. Like, I just don't know what you're expecting. I'm really impressed by just how comfortable this car is on the roads. You know, when I was in the Ford Ranger with no weight in the back just like this, when you get above 100 kilometers an hour or so, that car starts to jitter around at the rear. I've had no issues with this at all. Even these seats, you know, people complain about them. Again, you know, they're quite comfy, and I'm a bigger guy. I'm over 100 kilos, but totally fine for me. And I've had some bad seats. Oh, but look where we are. We are at Saucy Corner. We've got to give this thing some sauce. Jacob's not here, but tickle my pickle in lieu of, friend. Let's go. It's fine. I was quiet there for a moment. It's okay. All right, let's see how it goes around here. Yeah, steering is definitely lighter than other utes. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not hearing any sort of tire squelching. Wow. I'm impressed. Most other utes would have lost it around there, and I'll tell you why. Because they don't have that permanent four-wheel drive. Some have on-demand all-wheel drive where it sends power to the front wheels when required, but this is permanent. But then if we don't want that, we just go down here, turn it into 2 high, and we're good. It's a beautiful day. We're not going to lose the rear end, and we can save a bit of fuel at the same time. I don't know. I really like it. You know, if you test drive a lot of these utes, I think what you're going to find is that kind of all just start to feel the same. They all have very similar dynamics because they're all using the same suspension setup, leaf springs at the rear. They all have the same lightness in the steering wheel. It's very common. And yes, this thing has underpinnings from like 2006, the second generation Triton. But maybe that's just a testament to how good that engineering was. I don't know. I certainly stand by that this thing does not deserve the flack that it gets. And then there's the 6-speed auto. Again, it gets a lot of complaints. Why isn't it the 8-speed auto? Why isn't it a 10-speed like you'll find in the Ford Ranger? Honestly, I like 6 gears. In fact, I think that's the perfect amount. I've had 0 issues with this gearbox, like 0. You know, being a budget play, this car gets compared a lot with the Great Wall Cannon. And even though that is quite significantly cheaper than this, what you do get with this is 1, overall refinement, 2, the engine. It's just a lot better. It's got a lot more power and a lot more torque. Perhaps reliability, although that's unfair. You can't really comment until 10 years down the track. But what I can say is the Mitsubishi Triton is actually very reliable. This engine has been used since about 2010, and there are no major issues with it at all, which is quite impressive. And better yet, you get a 10-year warranty or 200,000 kilometers. So if you're using this as a tradie, you're probably gonna reach that 200,000 kilometers relatively quick. at least within that 10-year time frame. But if you're using this as a lifestyle car, that's 10 years. 10 years of warranty, as long as you service it at Mitsubishi dealerships, but who cares? Pretty good. And with that, let's get into my final thoughts. So that's it, the Mitsubishi Triton. What are my final thoughts? I just don't understand why other journalists don't really like this car. I think if you've spent any time with owners, they all seem to love their Mitsubishi. And there is a reason that this thing is the 3rd best selling ute here in Australia, despite winning the wooden spoon in a lot of these comparison tests. And that's because this thing provides good value. Wouldn't say necessarily this GSR spec, I would go for a lesser spec if it was me, but even still, let's say you're getting this one, it's still better value than a Toyota Hilux and a Ford Ranger, about the same as an Isuzu D-Max, but in my opinion, you get one of the best riding utes, even with its older platform. I don't mind the interior, no, it's not the nicest thing in the world, but it's not the worst. And better yet, you get one of the best reliability packages out there. In my opinion, this thing is definitely a win and should be in your consideration. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, just below that like button, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Love to have you around. Of course, if you need finance for any car, whether it's this or whatever, use the link in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Ciao for now.